Hello, everybody. Welcome in. It's Friday, and that means it's
Front Office Friday.
Let's go. Front Office Friday is here, talking NBA basketball with you. Welcome in. Those of you joining here over on the YouTube channel, we'll be taking your questions and comments throughout the show. Plenty to talk about. Keith, how are you doing on this fine Friday?
I'm good. Yeah, somebody in the chat just reminded Friday the 13th. So Front Office Friday the
Spooky.
13th. Spooky times here on the Front Office Show. Yeah, man, I'm doing good. I'm feeling much better. And finally, I think in the last stages of that cold I had. So I'm psyched. We get a ton of preseason action to break down and all that. So yeah, it's good times are going here.
Yeah, let's start there. In fact, as we're getting people coming into the show. By the way, again, welcome in everybody. Come in on this spooky Friday the 13th. I should have
We
had
should
some
have dressed
Halloween
up
music.
or something. Yeah.
Right? I should have done something
Maybe in
queued
a
up
couple
for us.
weeks we'll do a Halloween Front Office Friday, and we'll
Ooh,
dress
that'd
in
be fun.
costumes. Yeah.
Ooh, spooky. Yeah, we need to do something like that. But we saw something last night that's got Suns fans feeling a little gloaty this morning. Yusuf Nurkic outperformed DeAndre-Ayton in what was being billed as DeAndre-Ayton's revenge performance. Didn't happen. Yusuf Nurkic was better. Is it possible that the Suns got the better of that trade?
I mean, revenge performances in preseason games, like
Yes.
sure. That's
Thank you.
No, I mean, I don't know. In the interim, yeah, maybe. I think that they seem to be very content to lean in on their offense, and Nurkic is going to be really solid for them. He's a better offensive fit for what the Suns need than DeAndre Ayton was going to be, because he's a good ball mover. He's a better screener. He's not nearly as athletic, sure, and those things, but you could do a lot more with him. He can also space the floor a little bit. He takes a handful of threes here and there. So I think but if it's we're talking next year and beyond, no, DeAndre Ayton's the better player and the better asset. But yeah, I mean, last night you kind of saw, as odd as it is, like that's how this should go. It's the Suns starters are going to do what they do, but it was really the Suns bench that kind of blitzed the Blazers bench and made it all sort of messy there. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm not going to take too much from one preseason game.
It's always a dangerous thing to overreact to preseason, but there's emotion that's
Sure.
wrapped up in this when you've got the guy who you drafted number 1 overall and didn't want to be there anymore, and Phoenix fans didn't seem to want him there much either, and then he comes back with his new team. But I don't know, there's always going to be that kind of schadenfreude coming in when he gets his butt kind of handed to him by Nurkic. Nurkic, I liked his passing that we saw there.
Mm-hmm.
That's never been, his talent has never been the question. It's his age, it's the injury history, it's all of that compared to what could the potential upside of DeAndre Ayton be. So I understand why Portland did it from their side. I also understand why Suns fans might be looking at that going, yes, see, take that, Ayton, take that.
Yeah. I mean, let's see what happens in their first, real, matchup in the regular season when, guys are hopefully going to be full go and ready to play 30 plus minutes if need be and those kind of things. But yeah, I'm not, I'm not going to say Nurkic is not the better fit. We broke this down in detail. You guys can go back and watch that if you want when we talked all about the trade. But yeah, it'll be really, this is long term versus short term, and I think the long term, is still the win for the Trailblazers, and the short term's a win for the Suns, long term the win for the Trailblazers.
Well, and really, I mean, Kevin Durant is 35 going on 55. Like, there is no long term for the Phoenix Suns. It's now. It has to be right now for them. Let's talk a little bit about let's just get it out of the way. The Miles Bridges situation. Not something I want to talk about, not something I've been looking forward to discussing, but here we go again. And the Hornets just seem to be mired in all of this controversy from the Kai Jones situation. They just waived him. We talked about that on our last show just a couple of days ago. And now this. In fact, it was like 15 minutes after we finished recording our last show that the news broke that now there was a arrest warrant out for Miles Bridges and something about busting up a windshield. And I mean, Keith, what's going on here, and what are the Hornets going to do?
Yeah, it sounds like as terms of the prior arrest and situation, Miles Bridges was ordered to stay away from. Uh, I, I keep wanting to say the mother of his children, but I don't know if that's accurate. So I don't. If I slip up and say that, I apologize in advance. But anyway, the woman that he was accused of abusing last time, he was ordered to stay away from her, and this time around, it sounds like threw billiard balls through the windshield of the car, or at least into the windshield, and cracked it. And then Miles Bridges' current girlfriend, I believe, as it was described, she was kicking and hitting the car and dented it. And the worst part is there were kids in the car. So that is, that's to me where this completely, it's bad enough, but it's worse that the children were in the car, because I mean, you whip a billiard ball hard enough to go through a windshield and it hits a kid, you could kill them.
Yeah.
Right. Like
I didn't realize that detail. I mean, that's horrific.
Yeah, that's in I believe that was also in the arrest warrant that was issued. It did come out this morning. He has turned himself in to authorities against these charges. Maybe isn't the right way to call it, but whatever. He's turned himself in. And the Hornets statement basically to Baxter Holmes of ESPN was, we're aware of the situation. We're collecting more information. We'll let something know soon here. Hornets can obviously get out of his contract extremely easily by just waiving him. It's only a 1-year deal. He only signed the qualifying offer this summer, did not sign a long-term contract. So my guess is we're going to see Miles Bridges probably not around for a long time. I will say someone said Miles Bridges posted on Twitter or Instagram and changed his profile picture to Johnny Depp, who was accused of abuse. What was it, a year or two ago? And that trial very famously played out. And then I guess that he changed it back or deleted it or whatever. So, but it's a mess in Charlotte. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there, and this is the latest of a string of what is happening with the Hornets.
Now, if all of this turns out to be accurate, right? If it's proven that he actually did this and all of that, and look, I've talked about it before. I'm a big proponent of innocent until proven guilty. You need all the facts to come out about a case. There's two sides to every story, and that's the way I approach things. But if this turns out to be accurate, the Hornets, I would have to imagine there's language in this contract that will allow the Hornets to completely get out of the deal and not have to pay him for the beyond just waiving him. And maybe it's an easier path to just waive him, but there has to be language in this contract that would allow them to say conduct detrimental to the team. You've nullified your contract here.
Yeah, there definitely is. Now that takes some doing, right? And that it's kind of the same thing that's playing out with the Kevin Porter Jr. situation right now. Is the Rockets could just waive him, eat his salary this year, a little bit of a guarantee on next year's salary, and then just be completely done with this. But it sounds like they're going to let it play out, because there is a potential that we could trip into a point where the contracts become voided. It would be the same situation with Miles Bridges, where the contract could become voided, and then you just don't owe him anything, and then everybody moves along, and it's over and done with. So we're going to see where this goes. My guess is, teams are very, how do I phrase this? They're very reluctant to take action before they really need to, especially when we're talking millions upon millions of dollars being involved here. So I think they very clearly want to be sure, hey, this is, rather than just waiving a guy and moving on, we want to be sure, we're handling everything the right way here, because otherwise it just becomes a major mess legally on their end too, and potentially tying up these millions of dollars. So yeah, we're gonna watch both of those situations unfortunately play out here over, my guess is, the next several months, because it's going to take just the legal process always takes a long time to resolve. But I don't think we're going to see Miles Bridges around the Hornets, much like Kevin Porter Jr. It'll probably be, hey, go away. Like we'll deal with it when it's time.
Yeah. Oh, these Hornets. I hope that there are some sunnier skies ahead for them, because it's been It's been quite an off season for Charlotte. Hey,
Yeah.
at least Brandon Miller had an epic dunk the other day. So at
Yeah,
least
that was a charge.
well, but at least like Hornets fans had something to point to, because look, I think it's gone too far at this point, but there's been so much they should have taken Scoot, like just
Yeah.
being thrown at the Hornets and their fans every day. I think that we're underrating Brandon Miller at this point. Like that's where we've gotten to, but at least they
Yeah.
had something to go, see, look, he's crazy athletic. Look at that. It's something.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Miller is going to be very good. It's just, I think, and I'll put myself in there. I believe Scoot Henderson is going to be awesome. So I think we're, really in a spot where, let's see, what all these guys do. But I'm high on Brandon Miller. I think he'll be a good player, and in a very weird, just basketball sense, this clears things up rotationally a little bit for Charlotte. If Bridges is out of the picture, because they did an awful lot of forwards that needed to play, with Bridges and PJ Washington and Gordon Hayward and obviously Brandon Miller. That's a lot of guys that you need to work in somewhere. Even if Hayward and Miller can maybe swing to the guard position once in a while, then you still have there. You've got Rozier and LaMelo Ball and in that. So it just it started to be a little bit of a crowded perimeter group in Charlotte, and we're going to see how that all comes together too. But we'll find out more on all of this, I guess, over the next coming. Hopefully we'll find out something on Bridges specifically within, I would hope, a week, and then the rest will play out obviously over months.
Right. All right, let's get into this super chat question here. Yang says, what's the scariest team your team has ever faced? So keeping with the October, the spooky theme, given that it's Friday the 13th and all that, the scariest team your team has ever faced. That's interesting to think about, right?
Yeah.
Especially given our two franchises.
Yeah, I'm trying to, clearly, like in the 80s, for me as a kid of the 80s and early 90s, those Celtics teams, like with those Lakers teams with Magic and Worthy and Kareem and whatnot, it can't really pick anybody but those teams. But they always felt more evenly matched. It never felt like, man, we don't have a shot here. I'll say the Celtics in, what was it, 2002 Celtics. They went to the East Finals against the then New Jersey Nets. Which the Lakers, I believe, right? 2002, they beat the Nets in the finals, I think.
Yes,
or it might have been the Spurs. Was it the Lakers?
Yeah, and in 02 it was the Lakers.
Yeah, so it's that Nets team, like I felt like, man, the Celtics are going to need to play perfect to have any shot against that team. So that's a very special Celtics team for me, because that's when I moved to Florida permanently. So they were my attachment to home, because I kind of lived and died through those playoff games. And I was literally going to the ESPN club for a lot of those playoff games, because they weren't on. I didn't have cable where I was living at the time.
Yeah.
So it was like, I was very, very invested in that particular Celtics team. And that Nets team was just, they were slightly terrifying in the East that year.
Until they got to the finals.
Yes. Well, that's why I said
then it was Todd McCullough against Shaq, and that didn't go so well.
I'll tell you what. They had troubles with both the Spurs and the Lakers when they get out of the East.
I'll tell you what mine is, and you'll probably this will make you feel good. It was the 08 Celtics. That season in the finals, like I win it. Like I don't think I even watched the last couple of games of the finals. And I remember my dad saying, "It's the finals. Why are you watching?" I said, "Because I know what's going to happen." Like it was very clear that the Lakers weren't physical enough. They weren't prepared for that, and they had kind of just been thrown together. The Celtics had just been thrown together earlier in the summer, but that's when the Lakers had just gotten Powell and everything, and you could just, I don't know. I've always had the ability to kind of watch a game and get a feel for just the vibe of the series and kind of the rhythm of it. And I could just tell within the first couple of games, I'm like, this is the physicality is not there. This isn't going to work out well for the Lakers. So that was the team where I was like, yeah, this is going to be a rough one. That's for sure. And then I think the 04 Pistons, once the series got started and you realized, and all the expectation was the Lakers are going to steamroll this team, going in. And then once you got into it, you went, oh no, this is not good. This is a big problem. So that team, once you saw it on the floor, that team too, once you actually saw it take place. So those are probably my two.
Yeah, I think that '08 Celtics team too. I'm 100% with you on that because I think the only one who was really ready for the Lakers in that series was Kobe. Like he was obviously clearly ready to go, and he knew what it took. But yeah, that was the first. I don't want to disrespect his prior experiences, but that was like Paul Gasol's first like big run, right?
Yeah.
Playing really important games. Andrew Bynum was Andrew Bynum. Like we'll just leave it at that. So I like I remember there was
What?
moments where I was like, oh my
And
god,
Bynum was injured at that point.
what was it? Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, he'd been coming back, and that was why they traded for Powell in the first place, was because
Yeah.
Bynum got injured, and they went, uh-oh,
But I just remember Garnett. I was like, "Oh, KG is he's determined to snatch Gasol's soul here
Yeah.
in this series. Like this is like he's done." And and just the that game, it was a game 7 was the one where like it was just or no, it was game 6. I'm sorry, because the Celtics won 4-2. It was game 6, like when they just, I mean, they rolled all of that's when they were pouring Gatorade on Doc Rivers and all that other crazy nonsense on the sideline and everything. But and then when I knew the Celtics like were in their heads was when Phil Jackson was like, we didn't even know who Leon Poe was after he had the monster game against them. And it's like, yeah, sure you didn't. Like you got to the finals and you don't know who somebody on the other side is. Like, all right, now at that point, I was like, you just gave them the last little bit of motivation they needed. And I totally know what you're saying with that Pistons team too. And that Pistons team was the same kind of thing, right? Like they were like, hey, we're here. And I remember there's a play. It was very early in game 1. Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace both stepped to Shaq. And it was like, we're not going anywhere, right? Like we're here. We are both going to hammer you every single time you touch it. And we're going to dare them to call fouls. That was the closest to the Pistons against MJ that I remember, like in the NBA. And unfortunately, because Shaq was this gigantic monster, he was just never going to get those calls the way Jordan would get them. So there was a lot of like, he would get absolutely rocked and there was no call coming, which was always felt a little weird for Shaq and the way he was officiated, but that's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah, I mean, and we still like LeBron gets it too to a degree. We'll see it now. When he drives, he'll get hit a lot, but it's these guys in general. I imagine we're going to see this with Zion as well once we get out there on the floor even
hopefully.
more. Hopefully
in a weird way.
It's the dudes that are so big and so strong.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, LeBron's like 6'9", 250. Shaq was obviously 300 pounds, and guys just kind of bounce off of them, so they can get hit. And it's not the same kind of reaction as when, like, if Trae Young gets hit, he's going flying, right?
Yeah.
And part of that's Trae Young being Trae Young, but also because he's like 165 pounds or whatever. So he gets hit, he goes flying, and the referee's obviously going to call it because it's so noticeable. These other guys that get hit and they're already like a brick wall, well, the officials don't see that as much, and so you get that effect. And you had that quite a bit with Shaq, where guys are like hanging on him and everything, and he's so big, so strong that oftentimes he'd get hammered and not get the call, which is not what you typically think of with superstar level players. We hear, oh, stars get all the calls. If you're one of the like physically strong people, then they tend to miss more things than you would think.
Yeah, Dwight Howard went through it for a while.
Absolutely.
Especially in his Magic years. Charlie Saturday in the chat called out Giannis 100%. Giannis gets beat up quite a bit, and there's no calls for him. A bunch of people said scariest teams is Golden State Warriors. Like, for a little while there, you felt like you had no chance, right? It was like it felt like the only team that had any chance was the Cavs, and it was only because they had LeBron. Right. It felt like, and even if the Rockets pushed them and the Thunder pushed them, like it just felt like, that almost felt like the Warriors playing with their food more than it did, fully those guys, hanging in there.
Yeah. I mean, there's like the Warriors, you could be up 20, especially like the peak of their powers Warriors. You could be up 20 with 5 minutes to go and feel confident you were going to lose.
Yeah.
Because they could put up 20 points in 2 minutes, no problem. And so, And
I'll never
maybe
forget.
I'm being a little hyperbolic there, but
They came in here and played the Magic, and the Magic very purposely made it a noontime Sunday start. So it was like the worst
9
possible
a.m.
thing
West
for the
Coast. Yeah.
Warriors. And it was, I believe, the first game of Golden State's road trip. So like they hadn't even fully adjusted to East Coast time yet. The Magic, I want to say, were up 15 in the second quarter. Before halftime, Golden State was up like 14 or 15. And they just completely flipped it that quick for, just they were just unbelievable. Like just unbelievable the way they, really kind of, could just roll through teams. So
Yep.
we got a
Yeah.
couple good super chats.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me get to this one here. Mario said, "What's the next major rule change you'd like to see the NBA make?" My immediate answer, it's to go to the FIBA goaltending rule.
Yes.
Where the ball
is
live
why we're
on
friends
the
and
rim.
co-hosts.
Is that your
That's
pick
exactly
too?
where I went.
Okay.
Too. Yep.
that would be mine.
Yeah, that would be my in-game one. My overall like structure kind of change. I would like to see more. I'd like to see them establish more direct ties to the G League, meaning it becomes more of a minor league. But and I don't know perfectly how to do this, but I want to see it become a thing where the players still have the free agency to join any team. But I would like to see if you're with a G League affiliate, the teams could call you up. So if you have one of these games where it is, geez, we got 5 guys out today, maybe you could call an affiliate player up on a one game contract and just bring them up for the one game, let them fill in, pay them one game prorated NBA, minimum that they would have got. And then you could bring them back down without any have to sign them, then put them back through waivers and clear a roster spot and all that stuff. I'd have to really get deeper into it and flesh it out. But I think there's a way to make that a little bit more of a tie. And then I think eventually we're going to see, I think the league will eventually abolish the one and done rule. I think we'll see draft reform. And I think there'll be some kind of rule around players under age X have to spend X amount of time in the G League. And that'll be a way, you could make the G League just more interesting, more ties, pull more fans in. Even if you're not a super deep baseball fan, everybody kind of knows, we've got this really great prospect down in AAA, and everybody just kind of knows about that guy. That'd be cool to see that replicated in the NBA as well, where, we've got this guy, playing in the G League and, he'll be ready in a year or so, or whatever it is.
With the G League, I like that from the player's perspective, because you never know when a roster spot, when an opportunity is going to open up in the NBA. And you want to have the flexibility to get pulled by any team, because if you are, let's say you're part of, I don't know, you're part of a G League team that's, let's say it's Sacramento's G League team, right? And then a spot opens up on the Knicks, let's say, and the Knicks need you and need your skill set. That if you're stuck in your particular silo with your team, you can't take advantage of that opportunity. But on the flip side, from the team perspective, I can tell you this, it's always frustrating when you've got a guy that's been in your G League program for a few years. I know there's two-way contracts and you can kind of avoid this, but when you've got a guy that you've been developing for years and the next thing you know, they get poached by another team, you're like, okay, what? We just spent all this time with this guy and now he's just gone. I wish there was either some way to compensate teams where that happens, or more of and again, I don't want to take opportunities away from the players, so there has to be some type of dialogue here to how to figure this out, or some way to tie a player to that particular team so they don't spend all the time, all the resources developing a certain player, and then next thing you know, they're getting minutes for, could even be your division rival. You don't know.
I would love to see something along the lines, and again, I'd have to really flesh all this out and think through it, but something where in this situation you just laid out, where if you are, if the Knicks are pulling from the Kings G League team, the Kings still have right of first refusal, where they can say, actually, we're going to elect to keep him, give the player a contract that's equal to a standard NBA minimum deal, and then it just kind of locks the player in there, and maybe you give everybody, 3 I don't want to call them additional two-way slots, but like 3 affiliate slots
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, where then you could do that and then you keep that relationship. You keep working with the player and you go. Just, yeah, something that formalizes that, but without restricting the player movement. That way, if you're the Kings and you're like, all right, we don't really want to give, player X that kind of contract, off he goes to the Knicks on a 10-day and does his thing and, does that. I'd also, I 10-day contracts, I fully understand why they don't want 10-day contracts to start earlier than the beginning part of January, because teams would just not sign guys to the end of the roster and they just cycle through 10 days.
Yeah.
But I would like to see a little bit more flexibility in when those could start as well. Beyond just hey, we've got 4 or 5 guys out and we need to sign a 10-day. Like, I don't want to see that. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things along those lines. That's probably topics we can get into, much more in depth, when we're in a more of a dead period in the season. Great question, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Atlas says the next major rule change, the 4-point shot. Welcome to the show, Antoine Walker. We have found his burner account.
There it is.
Appreciate you joining. Always nice when we have a former player joining.
That's one of my favorite quotes. Like, I love that.
There's no fours.
Yeah.
Oh, Antoine. Caleb said if the NBA does a 4-team expansion, which maybe they eventually, I think it'll be 2 and 2 if they're going to do 4 teams. It won't be 4 at once, but who are the other 2 teams? So assuming it's Vegas, assuming it's Seattle, who would be next? He suggests Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, St. Louis. I know we've talked about Mexico City.
Yeah.
Would that be one of them, you think?
Yeah, I think before, unfortunately, the cities Caleb listed here, I think Vancouver is a place the league is interested in. But I think they're much better positioned to.
Can they take the Grizzlies name back, please?
Yes, and that should be part of it. And then just call them the Memphis Blues, right? They already wear 2 varying shades of blue and just be done. Like I'm all in on that, and give the Jazz name back to the Pelicans too, and just let them be the New Orleans Jazz. But so Vancouver I think would be one. Louisville has been pushing hard to get a team, so I think they might be ahead of some of these teams. The problem with like Cincinnati, you're going to have issues with Cleveland and Indianapolis potentially because they're so close. I know Louisville's not that far from Cincinnati. Pittsburgh, they just have never really seemed to have all that much of an interest in putting a team. St. Louis is one that gets mentioned a lot, and potentially they could be in the mix. But yeah, I think I would pick Seattle and Las Vegas over the field of cities by a wide margin for 2 teams. And then if they were to go to 4, that's where I think it becomes a complete wide open bid. And they may want to go a little more international with Vancouver and with maybe Mexico City or something like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, that would certainly be interesting, especially when we start talking about, you were talking about this the other day about, being the first team in to certain cities. If we talk about Mexico City, that might be kind of interesting. We know they already have the G League team there. Jeremy said, what do you guys think of an NBA team in Nashville? I mean, wouldn't you just move the Grizzlies over to Nashville?
Yeah, and I mean, and God, now you're going to start a massive fight between everybody who battles about Memphis versus Nashville.
I just mean rather than put a second team, like it's just a few hours away.
Yeah, that's always the challenge, right? You could throw out a whole lot of places, but it's like the team that are already in the state or in the region are going to be like, no, because that just takes away from their audience, right? Like that's like we hear all the time, like people will throw out regularly, like they should put an NBA team in Tampa, and the Magic would do everything they could to keep that from happening because Tampa's only 45 minutes to an hour away from Orlando, so they don't want to give up what's considered to be part of their region for another team. So yeah, the Grizzlies would fight against Nashville, and I don't think it'll happen. And I think they would just stick around where they're at.
I mean, Nashville is very much an up-and-coming area. It's a place, a lot of people are moving to Nashville right now. It's getting bigger and bigger, and obviously they've already got Major League Soccer there. They've got hockey there. Of course, you've got the Tennessee Titans that are out that way. And so you've got sports teams there, but the Grizzlies also kind of own Memphis, right? Like
Yes.
there's a lot of there's college sports are huge, but the Grizzlies really own Memphis. And so that's
And they're
aside from
working
college
through the
sports,
process for a new arena too. So,
exactly. So
yeah, which is
I don't see them moving
yeah,
over. And because
yeah.
of the proximity to Nashville, again, I think the Grizzlies would fight tooth and nail, I guess is the right term, but to make sure that it doesn't happen.
I want to use this as a kind of entryway too to say, like, the whole idea of moving teams, the league doesn't want to.
Yeah.
They like the 30 markets they have right now. Well, 28 or whatever it is, because some teams are doubled up. But they like the teams where they are right now. They want to add to that. Because if they wanted a team in Seattle, they've had any number of opportunities to move various franchises to Seattle or make the process easier to move to Seattle, most notably the Kings. Like, for a little while, it looked like that was going to be a done deal, but they don't want to give up on the markets they're already in. So, I think they're in a very, interesting point where it's let's not do any of this. Adam Silver's been very clear. It's going to be the, we're going to be a, healthy 30 markets right away, or 30 teams now. And then when that we feel we're in a good place, then we'll go to 2. New Hampshire and Maine. Yeah, good luck. So
Well,
that just made me laugh. I saw somebody drop that in the chat. And since that's whole mish, like that makes me laugh. Yeah, no, not happening.
when you've got, if you're the NBA and you're looking at the optics of a situation, if you are adding a team, it's an expansion team, and you're giving a team to a city that doesn't have one, Las Vegas, here's a team for you. You don't want to add into that. Here, sorry, whatever city,
Yeah,
we're taking your team away, because then
exactly.
you get upset fans, you get all the
Yep.
sad posts on social media, you get the outrage, you get everything the league went through with Oklahoma City and how shady that whole situation was with stealing the Sonics away, and everybody saw it coming from miles away, and them saying, no, we're not doing it, we're committed to Seattle, we're committed to Seattle, we're committed to Seattle. Oh no, wait, we're going to Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
That was a mess. The NBA doesn't want to go through that again. You'd rather add a team than move a team at this point.
And then it felt like they turned the knife in Seattle after the Thunder rather got so good.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was only like 2 years after they moved. It was like, holy crap, this team could be incredible. So yeah, Seattle's getting a team. I mean, that's as done of a done deal as there can be. The question is, does somebody make a better case that it shouldn't be Las Vegas? And I have a very hard time seeing it. I think that is basically done. The Clippers are not going to Vegas. They're building, the most expensive arena that's ever been built. Like they're not going anywhere.
It would be fantastic, but they're not going to do it. We've been trying to get them out of LA for decades, decades, and they are the house guests that will not leave.
Yeah. Well, they're leaving pretty soon. That's the house guests that hit the $1 billion lottery. And as hey, I got to ask. I mean, you could just whisper and tell me after the show. Were you the one who won the Powerball?
I was not.
So.
I was not. I am here today, so I was no. Honestly, I would be here anyway, though. That's a fantastic thing to say. That. But no, right.
I would not be. You're a better person than me.
I will admit, I tried to play. I tried. I got $10, which I rarely carry cash, and so I made sure I had $10. And I went to this one of those computerized machines, right? Like I didn't even go to like the counter at the gas station or whatever. It was the kiosk, and it wouldn't work. It was broken. And so I'm like, okay, that's my sign. That's my sign that I need to just hang on to my $10 rather than play the lottery. So I didn't even get an opportunity to potentially win that lottery.
The best way to win money by playing the lottery is not play the lottery, right? You just keep that money. So what I hear, there was another couple, I think, right? Was there?
Yeah. Let's get to a few of them here. Fear the Deer said, who do you think is the X factor for the Bucks? For me, it's Pat Connaughton, and if he can fill in that 2-guard role a little bit, or at least be a solid perimeter defender next to Dame, that's my guy for the Bucks.
Yeah, my real choice here would be just general health of the roster. But if I'm going to pick an actual player, I'm going to go with a different shooting guard. I'm going to pick Malik Beasley. I do think it's really interesting that they're talking about throwing him as their like defensive stopper on the perimeter.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. That's going to be how it plays out. But yeah, and then yeah, so I'll pick Malik Beasley.
All right, Darren Flowers said, I hear next year's draft is a weak draft. In y'all opinion, and should the Spurs tank in 2025 draft to try to get Cooper Flag?
I mean, you're talking about tanking 2 years out. Like, I don't know about all that. Like, that's yeah. I don't. That's a bit much for me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm not.
I mean, I think we're going to see
that far out.
Yeah, we're going to see a tank off in 2025 for Cooper Flag, but I don't know about the Spurs. Like, I don't know.
It's hard enough to know what's going to happen in the NBA next year, period.
Exactly. Yeah.
Planning out a tank that far in advance is really, really difficult. On top of that, with the flattened odds, you could go all out right now, start selling off pieces. Okay, we're ready to tank, and wind up with the 5th pick.
Exactly.
I mean, that can definitely happen.
The Detroit Pistons this last year.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right.
Well,
I'm going to do a short one. It's my fault. I own it. I'm the one who has to bounce. So we'll let Trevor get to doing some other work, but we appreciate y'all.
Yep. Thanks for joining everybody on this Front Office Friday. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure you do subscribe. We're pushing for 30,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So hit that subscribe button and hit the like button as well for us. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.